Hey guys, Dan Holland here from SolutionToolbox.com. Welcome back. This is the 9th video in our series, creating a website from start to finish using SiteBuilder. We're going to pick up where we left off, and that was creating a home page. So I'm going to show you the design here real quick just to remind you guys where we're at. So here's the design that we're turning into a web page. So far we've worked our way down here, and now we're on the content area of the home page, which is going to be this section here. It's going to contain the company news and the testimonials. So the first thing that we need to do is create the home page, and then we're going to create a few styles for these areas, and then we're going to go ahead and use some modules to load the articles in here and to load the testimonials in here. So let's get started. I'm here in the dashboard of SiteBuilder, and I'm going to come up here to Manage Content and Manage Homepage Content. I'm going to go ahead and create a home page here, and it's going to ask us for a couple things. One, I need to give it a name, so we'll call this the default homepage. The next thing it's going to ask us is the security. Obviously this is a public site, so I'm going to leave it to public. The layout. Now if you remember correctly, we already built this default layout, but we could have multiple layouts. For example, maybe we have one layout for our home page and another layout for our content pages. In this case we only have the one so far, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it here, but just know that you can have multiple layouts. Also, if I had other home pages, I could copy from those pages, but since I don't, I'm going to obviously start from scratch here. And I'm going to make this the default homepage. Next, I need to give it a title, and this title appears up here in the browser window when the client loads the website. So I'm going to call this Welcome to Modo. That's the name of the website that we're building here. And then we have the meta description and the meta keywords, which are used for search engine optimization. Now, I'm going to leave these blank for right now, but just know that when you're actually building a site, you're probably going to want to fill these in. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Page, and this will take us over to the home page editor. And before we get started, there's one thing that we need to do first, and that is attach the CSS that we've been building to this page. Otherwise, none of the styles are going to work. So I'm going to come over here to CSS Manager, and you can see the default and the jQuery CSS that we've created. But I'm going to come down here to the drop down and attach the default CSS. Just as easy as that. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do is build some more CSS to help style these the testimonials in the news. So I'm going to come over here to my CSS Manager, click on the default CSS, and open this up, and scroll down here to the bottom, and let's add some styles real quick. So the first one I'm going to add is going to be called Company News. Just like that. And then we're going to add another one called News Content. And then we're going to create one called Testimonials. And then we'll create one called Testimonial Content. And finally, we're going to create one called Testimonial Nested. Actually, this will be a subclass, so we'll call it Testimonial Nested. Alright, so let's go ahead and start creating the style for my company news. We're going to start out with the width, which I've already measured, and it's going to be 551 pixels. We'll throw in some padding here on the top of about 20 pixels. We'll throw in some margins on the left hand side. Let's see, let's set some font settings. So we'll say the font family here will be Arial. And we can say the font size, let's go with 10 pixels. And the font weight, let's go ahead and make this bold. Let's see what else we need to add here. We'll add the font color, which is going to be, we'll make it a dark gray. And we need to add the border on the bottom. If you see here under company news, we kind of have a nice line there, so I'm going to go ahead and add that. let's see, and then since we're going to have two divs floating next to each other, we're going to have a div here and a div here. We're going to have to float these. So this one's going to have to float on the left-hand side, kind of just like that. And I think that will work for the company news. Now the news content is going to be pretty similar, so I can just copy this and paste it down here, and we just remove a couple things. So the width and the padding can stay the same. The margin left can stay the same. We can remove these font settings here. I'm going to set the weight back to normal just because I don't want bold text in there. We can remove the color, we can remove that, but we'll leave the floating. Okay, that should work for the news content. So down here under the testimonials, we can probably copy this again because it's going to be pretty close. So the testimonials, this class is going to control the testimonials here, the underline that you see there. So we need to change the width here to 285, I believe. The padding can stay the same. The margin, this is going to be a little bit different. We're going to change that to 20 pixels. We do need to add a margin on the right hand side as well, which is going to be 65 pixels. Let's see, the font family, that's good. The font size, that's good. We still want it to be bold. Yep. But we're just going to change this to the right because this is going to float on the right hand side. Then, let's see, we can pretty much copy this again. Come down here for the testimonial content. And this is going to be 285, that's good. I am going to set a height in here though. 260 pixels. Let's see, padding. I'm going to change this to 40 pixels. Let's see, the margin left. We don't need that. The margin right can stay at 65. And we're going to float this so we can get rid of all this stuff here. We're going to float this right. And we do need to add a background image because if you see here, we've got this little cloud almost in the background. So I'm going to add that background image. And then also we're going to turn off the repeating properties for this background image. Actually, I have that backwards. And repeat. And once again, I'm going to type in this file path that we discussed earlier, which is the /data/sitebuilder/uploaded files, and then my file name, which I believe I called cloudbg.png. Alright, so there's that. So I think we're all finished with that guide there. So this nested, this is just for a way for me to get some of this text centered up in this cloud here. So I believe we're just going to say width is 100% here. And we'll just give it a little bit of padding on the left-hand side. About 30 pixels. I think that should pretty much wrap up everything that we need here. We go ahead and save that. And let's look at our style. Oh, I am going to need one more style for this read all button there. So let me add that real quick. Let's see, we'll scroll down here, kind of by the testimonials. We'll call this do another subclass, we'll call this read more, kind of like so. And let's see, we need some fonts, so we'll just grab this stuff, pretty much the same. We're just going to change some colors. The font size, that can stay the same. Actually, we're just going to change the color here. This is going to be a FF9933, and this needs to float to the right. Okay. I save this, we should be all set there. So now I just need to set up some divs on my screen here and we should be all set. Flip over here to HTML. And let's see, the first thing I want to do is define a height for my home page here. So let's go ahead and create our first div. We'll say style, set the height, and we'll start out with 400 pixels. We can always change that later. So So the first thing I want to do is create the company news line, which you can see right here. It's going to say company news is going to have a line underneath it. So I'm going to create my div. And I'm going to assign a class to it. Come over here and refresh this CSS so I can see these names. We called that company news. And then inside of here I can type company news as the text. Now next to that we're going to do our testimonials. Same thing, so I'm going to grab the testimonials class here. And inside of here I can write testimonials. Alright. So also inside of this testimonials, I am going to create another span just for that read more button. So I'm going to say span here. I'm going to close the span. And we're going to assign a class. We call that read more. And then inside of here we can write read all, actually. I think is what the text said. So I think that finishes that up top. So now let's create the areas below that where the content's going to load. So we have another div. Oops. My class on this guy. This is going to be the company content, I believe is what news content. And then next to that, I'm going to create another div. And this guy is going to be called the testimonial content. Just make sure that you're careful with these. These are case sensitive, and sometimes just having one little character off will ruin your day. And finally, inside of here, I'm going to do one more div. That's just going to be my nested div that I created to line the text. And we'll call this nested, just like that. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to save my page, and we should be able to preview the site.